Welcome to Random Acts of Squirrel. Today is Act 34, underneath it all, the 7 basic story archetypes and the rule of 3. So today is a little bit different, a little bit special, I think. I have an idea, it kind of is going to wedge really well with Act 35. It's going to be a little more brainy or schoolish or geeky, I guess, if you want, in these two. And my hope is after the second one, I'll tie in all the stuff here. But before I get in that stuff, I think it's interesting, but that's probably why I'm filming it, and I'm hoping I can explain it to show you why I think it's so interesting. But before I do that, one of the things I was looking into was the idea of, I think it's going to be called Moments with Squirrel yet. The title is still in flux. But I'm asking earlier, and if you like this here, please put in the comments. I've been trying to grow the channel. One of the thoughts I had was adding shorts. There's a lot of little things that I want to do, like a movie I go to or a book that I go to, and I just don't feel like it's worthy of a full video. But I do want to get it out there because some of the people I talk to as I'm trying to grow this have suggested I need to get stuff that's a little more trendy. I don't want to put the trendy stuff on these videos necessarily all the time because I want them to be something that can stick and go back into other stuff later. But I do think I could build shorts. So, like, for example, if I decided I want to see Aquaman 2, which I probably won't because it looks like it's a dumpster fire, or at least mediocre port at best, and I have better things to do. So, but for sake of conversation, I'll just say this. Let's say I wanted to go see Aquaman, and I went and saw it. My goal would do like a 2-minute quick thing and put it down as a short. And I'm thinking calling short like Moments with Squirrel. If you guys think that sounds cool, think there should be content I should throw in there, that would be a really good idea. Also, if you like the idea of that kind of stuff, maybe you could start suggesting movies that you want me to see, or ask if I've seen the movie. I can do like little micro reviews on it, or maybe little things that catch my interest during the day, things like that. But I think the idea is I want to make about a minute, minute and a half, just a little snippet of something that catches my eye, mildly interesting, that kind of thing. Try to get them done 4 or 5 times a week. That way you can get more followers out there, get more people watching, maybe get into some more popish stuff that people actually care about. And then as they discover that stuff, then maybe we can get some more fun conversations and, conversations, ideas. When I ask questions, we can build a world that I can know better how to serve everybody who's watching. But that's the sales pitch there. So if you're liking this stuff, there's always the universal hit the like button, subscribe, leave a comment, that kind of thing. But if you like the idea here today, and I'll probably mention it on the next video, which I think I'm filming tomorrow, of the idea, like I said, Moments of Squirrel, and you think it's kind of a cool little short where you'd like to spend a minute or two with me, go ahead and put that on the bottom just to see if it's an idea that you think sounds cool to you. But digression aside, this is going to be college kind of stuff, but my hope is when I promise this to you that it will be interesting, because I think there's an underlying thing I think is cool. So as stated earlier, it is the 7 basic story archetypes and the rule of 3. So today I'm going to walk through what this means, throw in a couple examples, and probably do my usual tie it up in a bow and see if there's a couple things on how it connects or means things, that kind of stuff too. So for those who are curious what this all means, I wrote it down ahead of time because I didn't want to waste time. One of my New Year's resolutions, if I have this, is to get better sound. So find the job, get the mic, that kind of stuff, so I sound better, and to be a little more timely, because I know that if you are taking the time to watch this, you don't have the time to waste through all my ums and that kind of stuff, which means I got to be better organized, and the tighter they are, the more you'll be willing to recommend them, I hope. So this is what's going on today. Oh, stop here for the moment. We have our 7 here and rules of 3, which I kind of found by accident. I was doing my delivery job, which I spent my last day doing this as a seasonal delivery person, and I heard something on the radio from a guy named Cale Clark. He is on Relevant Radio, and he was talking about this concept by Christopher Booker. The book is called The 7 Basic plots. And he used Jungian philosophy, and I'll be honest, I do not know Carl Jung. It looks like Jung, in case you don't know a lot about philosophy, to break down stories, philosophies, everything from the early stuff all the way to like the most mundane kid story. And he was trying to figure out what it is about these stories that has substance or meaning. I checked onto another site. I think this is, let me look so I get it right. I don't remember where it is. I think it's like one of those internet sites that you can learn from. But what they said is an archetype is a character type, storyline, or event that is notably recurrent across the human experience. In the arts, an archetype creates a sense of familiarity, allowing an audience member to easily comprehend an event or character. Thanks to our instincts and life experiences, we're able to experience these archetypical characters and plots. So what they're saying is that when you watch a story, if you feel like a lot of these stories look the same, especially the B movies, the mediocre ones, it's because at some level there's something in our DNA that describes why these stories work. There's something about it that if we deviate too far from it, it feels funny or awkward or becomes arty, but in general, mass audiences has a hard time connecting into it. So, let's see, describe it there. Here's a brief description of the ones that I had as I wrote it down. The first one they had is Rags to Riches. It's usually a story about a guy who's starting from the bottom and climbing up. And this is an article which his name is Max. This plot archetype is similar to fairy tales like Cinderella, Aladdin, Ratatouille. A lot of it's like the guy who kind of starts from his bootstraps and builds himself up. It's your hero. It's a lot of your American sort of hero stories. This is around a lot. I think that we like it because it inspires us. We feel like if this guy can do it, then I can do it too. And there's something about it that we love with the Rags to Riches story when we watch how somebody can take, I don't know, bubblegum and hope and turn it into something. The second one is a quest style. So think like Odyssey, Lord of the Rings. The idea is that you have an object. So like Lord of the Rings, it's the ring. Wizard of Oz, it'd be like her going to see the wizard so that she can get back home. But the thread of it, the heart of it, is the idea of the quest underneath that's driving it. And I think a lot of people fall into that story because there's moments in life like maybe getting through a workday where your goal is just to get through the workday sane in a truly mundane sense. Or like if you're taking a little road trip over the river and through the woods to grandmother's house you go. And as a kid, it became interesting because you could envision monsters and you were maybe escaping people, or I was imaginative, so I did, or maybe thinking about the deer in the woods and thinking they might have been, thieves that were trying to escape from, or astronauts flying to a location, or something like that. But the idea is that the travel is the important part of that story. Another one is Rebirth, which that literally they can tap into, say, like Jesus, but they also mention like the Christmas Carol. The idea is kind of rediscovering something that you had lost before inside of you. So it's the broken person who discovers redemption, some emotional sense of Lazarus that works on the inside where you find that thing that had withered or died. You discover a little bit of soul there kicks in. A good one would be like the Grinch, who, as the animated thing shows so beautifully, his heart increased 3 times, or 3 sizes, was too small and it exploded kind of thing. That's what you're looking at. The fourth one, Overcoming the Monster. This is your David and Goliath. A lot of your sports stories have the Overcoming the Monster story. They don't have to be physical monsters. The idea is some large something that you need to overcome or slay. Some of the mythologies, it was death became the monster that they would overcome. It could be something as intangible as, say, maybe defeating racism through indirect activities, or it could be, like, say, facing. Remember the Titans, where the team gets together and shows that blacks and whites can work together, and it's sort of them defeating racism, or like a lot of sports movies love the idea of that. The fifth one is comedy, and that is the notion that comedy is intrinsic to humans as a species and written. It's way back. A lot of comedy is kind of comedic plot lines subvert expectations and blend the familiar with the absurd to keep audiences laughing and on their toes. So the idea with the comedy is to kind of put things on edge. Often it's used to level the degrees that it can be used to expose the absurdity of life, or it can be used to show maybe like that peacefulness, like when we laugh at things, they're just funny how things explode, but it makes us happy. It's that positive sort of that sort of tension that causes us to laugh, which makes us happy. I did hear one person say that in heaven there'd be no humor because there wouldn't be that irony. Structurally, I kind of agree with what he says. My thing is, I don't know if I fully buy into it because, I don't know. I don't know if I have a sense of humor that way either. But the sixth one's tragedy. Tragedy is comedy's mirror image. Instead of it being a falling down kind of a story like this, so Othello, something inside of you that you don't fix right causes you to make a series of decisions that leads to one's downfall. So, for example, Richard Nixon, after a number of years of being in politics, learned to not trust anyone, and so his own suspiciousness ultimately led up to his own failure, which caused parts of what happened in Watergate. That's the premise on that. Let's see what they have written down here. Romeo and Juliet has some tragedy involved in that. You have the idea of, like, I don't know. Tragedies are hard for me to watch. It's probably my least favorite genre of all. It's I'd say a lot of your kingpin kind of stuff, a lot of your illegal drug kind of stuff. Scarface would be a good example. It's a tragedy. And then the last one that he suggests is called Voyage and Return. A voyage and return story sends a protagonist to a strange land from which they will return armed with wisdom and life experience. The biggest one they point out right away would be The Hobbit, Alice in Wonderland, Chronicles of Narnia, something where you're displaced out of your world and then you have to come back in. So I don't know if it's a popular movie, but one of them I always thought was kind of cool. Mid-90s, I want to say. It's called The 13th Warrior. It stars Antonio Banderas. He plays a kind of artsy Arabian prince who gets stuck going on this boat with a bunch of Norse Vikings. And so he comes in, he experiences the world, he reflects on the world, the world reflects on him, and then he comes back a wiser, more mature person with more experience of the outside world. Now I'll tie this all up here nice and what I think of it here. The next set of stuff that I showed here, so we got done talking these pieces right now, which are these. Now I'm going to dive into these. And I thought this was interesting because I think we laugh at it because it makes the script right, but at some level, isn't it what happens in our life too? And it's called the rule of three. And you broke it down to 4 threes. 3 would be better because rules of 3 should almost have 3. The simple 3, which is like a story taking 3 steps into stuff, even if you think about it musically speaking, rule of 3 comes into play because a classic song, more often than not, has verse, bridge, and then a verse. So it's 3 verses and a bridge with choruses going between. There's something about that syncopated rhythm that causes our brain to slow down, absorb, and make it sound right. It makes a song a song. The second one they mentioned was the ascending 3, which is a series of challenges. So the idea is like if you ever watch a lot of boxing movies, they show him starting, fighting, schmuck number 1, and fighting middle dude who's actually better, and then the champion battle. So it's kind of the rise of and a lot of these archetypes that he puts in, not everything is 100%. So you can have crossover into this stuff. But these are like your base level things that you can build on. The third one is the contracting 3, which is 2 bads and 1 good. The thing he chose right away to describe it was the 3 little pigs. You have 2 bad houses, the wolf is going to come there, and then the person does something different that is either unconventional or sees sort of messages in the tea leaves, does something different, and is able to survive. So they use the two different cases, show there's more bad ideas than good ideas, and then shows the person does a good idea. And the last of that group is called the final three, and that's where he picks on, and I'll be honest, my relationship with Digital Girl kind of worked like that. I dated two others before her that were like longer relationships. One was a little too cool for me. It was polite and that kind of thing. And then I did someone that was a little too hot for us. I think we fought more as much as we loved each other. And it was a little too hot. And then when I got with Digital Girl, it was kind of the right mix. And the idea of the contrasting three is that you build sort of a low spec and a high spec in a sweet spot. Why I think this stuff is necessary and why I like it, I think, at least for me at some core level, why I feel like it's important to share, is I think it's good to know what kind of archetypical story we feel we are in our life. So if we feel like life is a tragedy, we're going to start reacting a certain way. Also, if we feel like we're in the wrong kind of story, then maybe we can start restructuring it or doing things to change it. The reality is life is never as simple as a 90-minute movie, which was 90 minutes like back when I was younger in the 90s, which is closer to a 2-hour movie. There's more pieces at play, but if you can figure out the underlying thread that's really driving it, like, for example, Lord of the Rings doesn't have just the quest that goes on. It also has the big baddie with Saruman and the Eye. And a really good story, we have a lot of these ideas. And the more of these core elements they weave into it, the richer your life will be. It's not always fun, but there's nuance, there's richness into it. I think to know where you're at, though, to realize the kind of story or tale either you want to be in or the tale that you are in, which I think is actually more important, is you know how to act within those rules. Because there's certain motions that are just not going to work right and will actually put you at a disadvantage. I like the idea of the separation between comedy and tragedy and how it's basically mirror images. Comedies use absurdity to help elevate and move you up and beyond something. Tragedy uses that edge or that absurdity, and it works inwardly and destroys you. So if you notice you have, say, like a bad habit, and you notice it's always devouring you, it's a tragic moment in your character. It's a character flaw. And now that you know that, maybe that character flaw, you can start rewriting that part of your day or your schedule or your life, that kind of stuff. I don't know if any of this stuff ever applies directly. I think it'd be cool if I could, but that's the problem with these deep truths, is they don't exactly fit in boxes. They just kind of permeate in the air and you can feel them. I think that's part one of this one. Tomorrow when I film, the next act is going to be a little bit more about the story itself and what character you play in it. So, like I mentioned at the beginning, these are going to intertwine. I think it's an idea that's big enough it needs 2 videos. So I'm hoping if you like this one, the usual bit, which is, comment, like, subscribe if you haven't. And also keep an eye out for the next one, Act 35, because it's probably going to feed off of what you're seeing here and then build into the stuff that I think I really want to close with as far as what it means to me and why I wanted to bring these things up. And if you have watched this far, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate it. As I mentioned at the beginning, if you like the idea of having moments of squirrel, go ahead and leave that in the comments. Otherwise, thank you very much for your time and have yourself a very good day. Bye.